Hashem Kuzrea Kolam. Amen. Great. So now, for, okay. Okay. So, what I promised to do was go through, and what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to review the general uh, z- uh, 0 point technique, and then I'm also going to review paired identities as I promised. What is our goal? Our goal is for you to internalize these pathways. That's our goal. So we're going to now go over this, and then if there's questions, that's the time to ask questions. So let me just run through both, and then we can ask questions. Okay, so the first TD, okay, which is the 0 point or ZP, I'll call it ZP for people, is the individual. So what do? We first you pick an issue, whatever that is. Okay, it could be resistance, it could be whatever, but it's a single issue. It's not a paired identity. So you feel it fully, you feel where, sensory, size, shape, and color. Those are really, really important. It could be a blob, it could be very well defined, and it doesn't matter. So you just have to say size, shape, color, and location in your body. The second is you check for emotions associated with it, you check for thoughts, and you check for when you took it on. Now, I want to make clear that it opens up. When I said 2 years of playing tennis, it took 2 years to get to the very, 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 very bottom of it, not just a picture of me playing tennis. So let's get that. So we have our first when you took it on. Now you're going to take all four of those, which is what makes a thought form. A thought form, different than a thought, is made of sensory, emotional, thought, and root cause. But root cause is where you've taken on the thought form. It's a total entity within yourself. Okay, so you take it on, you expand to the outer limits, and then we press the button again, expanding again to the outer limits, including any additional conscious or unconscious sensory, emotional, thought, or root cause levels. When that's fully expanded, you do the next step. You go back in time and space to check if there was an earlier time when you took it on. You're 4 years old, you took it on, maybe at birth, maybe in the womb, maybe at conception, maybe in a past life. So you're going back in time and space. That's our third round of that, and we often keep getting deeper. Now the next thing is go back prior to when you took it on. And that reminds you that you didn't have that as naturally who you were. It's something you took on. So go back prior where you took it on, go into taking it on, go back, go in, go back, go into taking it on, let it expand to include all the times in past lives and present lives where you've played out that pattern which you took on at some point. And once you've reached the outer limit, then you have this thought form in front of you. It has a particular size and shape, and you're going to give it a name. And when you give it a name, it automatically pops you outside into the witness position. Outside in the witness position to show you have power over the thought form rather than you're no longer inside where it has power over you. You're now outside. Now you make 3 copies just to assert your power. Then you condense it to 1. And to further assert your power, you then make turn it into a giraffe and a wolf and a yellow rose, and then back to its original form. And then you have to ask the question, what do I get from, what's my secondary gain? I get something from this, okay? Because you wouldn't be carrying a thought form around if you didn't. You get something. Are you willing to let go of what you get for your spiritual evolution? That's your individual. Second place you check is your social network. So you're going to check your social network. Would anyone be upset if I gave up this thought form? Okay. And you then say, my psychosocial spiritual development is more important than any codependent needs. In other words, I'm sorry if my family likes it, I'm fat because everybody in my family is fat. Doesn't matter. I need to let go of my identification with being fat because it actually blocks my psychosocial spiritual development. Okay, now you've cleared that. Now the next question is, okay, I'm ready to let go of this thought form. I am ready to let go. So then we disintegrate it. We don't push it away, we disintegrate it. Well, you can burn it in fire, put in acid. It could be a sandcastle becoming sand because a big wave comes in. It's gone. And then you release it with a pulse breath as a final disintegration. That's the basic TD, thought. I'm going to actually get back to the original term. Thought dissolving process. TD, thought dissolving. Now, are there any questions? Because that's the basic one you're going to do. Are there any questions about that? David, go on. Go ahead, David.
Eric, give me just a minute. I've got something I got to do, and then we'll be able to speak with him. Okay, go ahead, David.
It's really David, correct?
Yeah.
Is that correct, David?
You just need to unmute yourself, David.
Otherwise, it's a mute point. We can't.
Yeah. No. Well, while he's figuring that out, we'll.
Okay, now is it?
Yes,
David,
it is.
Is it David or David? It's David, correct?
David, yeah, whatever.
Okay.
No, not whatever. It's David. We want to honor you. I don't need to use the wrong name. David. Okay, go ahead.
Just noticing I'm having a hard time following all the steps, and it goes like you went so fast today. I could not write it down, so I never get the full steps really down. I can kind of do it when you're with it, but it's like after you're gone, I forget. You know, I don't get it, and I haven't really written down all the steps. So when I'm following you, it's okay because I'm not trying. I give up trying to write. I just, I got to do something. So I'm just afraid of this will be over and I won't have any way to go back.
Okay, so have you written down any notes?
Yes, I've got, on
Give me the steps and let me see if I can fill in. I really want you to get it, okay? So give me the steps that you have written down. And obviously what I'm doing is going to serve everybody. I understand that. So it's not just David getting this. So what's point one? What do you do?
Okay, I got 6 pages. It's very confusing.
I want you to write it down simple, okay? So I don't want to hear about 6 pages. What do you do first? You name what you want to get. What's your thought form, right? So clarify thought form, step 1. Just write it down, okay? I'm just going to do it for you. This is for everybody. I'm going to go real slow. The way the learning goes, okay, now you've had the overview. Now everybody should write this down because when you write it down, it kind of implants itself, okay? So write down, please, Name the thought form that you want to dissolve. Did you, let me know when you've written it down.
Okay.
You did it?
Yep.
Okay, point 2. You're checking the sensory. Where in the body is the thought form located? And size, shape, or color, and then it could be a blob or very detailed. Doesn't matter. So location, or let's say sensory, location in the body, size, shape, color. That's all. That's all you're going to write down. And everybody should be doing this. Don't just be listening. I want everybody to do this. And then let me know. Say, okay, next step. Let me know. Ready for next step.
Yes.
Did you say ready for next step?
Yes.
Okay, don't say yes. Say ready for next step.
Ready for
That's
next
our
step.
code, right?
Okay.
Next step is check emotions associated with the thought form. Right? Check emotions. And I'm going to say associated with the thought form. Okay. The next step after that is check thoughts associated with thought form.
Okay.
Okay, so you're using the word okay. Okay means you're ready for the next step. So look for a root cause.
Okay.
Now, we now have sensory, emotional, thought, and root cause. We have a complete thought form, right? Everybody understand that. Now, you're going to push the expand button to include, and I'm actually shortening this a little bit, to include any additional sensory, emotional, thought, or root cause level, conscious or unconscious. That's what you just did. You're letting it expand. And it naturally stops moving when you've included that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, now it stopped moving, and now you're asking, go back in time and space. Third, you're rechecking, because as I say, each time you can go deeper. So go back in time and space when you first took it on. What are we looking at? An earlier time in this lifetime, we're looking at birth, we're looking at womb, we're looking at conception, and we're looking at past lives. Write those words down.
Okay.
Okay, good. Now you're going to go back to when you didn't have this thought form, prior to this thought form.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to go prior to the experience, moving forward in time to when you took it on. When did you take it on? And you do that 3 times. Prior, take it on. Prior, take it on. Prior, take it on. But on the third time, you're going to let it expand to include all the times in all your lives and in the present lifetime when you've played out the pattern of this thought form. That's the next step. So on the third time, you'll now let the thought form expand to include all the times in past lives and present life where you've played it out. And it naturally expands.
Okay.
Okay, now you've reached it. Now you're going to name this thought form, 1 or 2 words only. And in the naming, you then pop out automatically. You're now in the witness position. You're outside the thought form. It's no longer controlling you, you're controlling it. The minute you name it, which you're naming it with capture its essence. You want a name that captures its essence. It's not just any name like George or Sam, anything, or Alicia. It doesn't matter. You got to name it that captures the essence.
Okay.
Okay, now you're now outside the thought form. To assert your power, you're going to make 3 copies, identical copies, and then condense to 1 again. That's a subliminal asserting.
Okay.
Okay, now to further assert power, and put these words in because this is all subliminal. To further assert power, you're going to change it to 3 different forms. You could say an elephant, a tiger, a yellow rose, whatever, 3 pictures. And then condense it to 1 again, the original thought form.
Okay.
Okay, now you're condensing to 1 as I mentioned, and now you're going to say, okay, what do I get from carrying this thought form around? You don't carry around thought forms that you don't get something from. So what do you get from it? How does it serve you? Those are your 2, they're the same. What do you get from it, or how does it serve you, or however you want to phrase it? But you're getting something by carrying this thought form around.
Okay.
Okay. Then you have to ask the next question. Am I willing to let go of this? What I'm getting from it? Hopefully the question is yes. If the question is no, then you have to do resistance. So you can clear it. What's your resistance to holding on to it? So we ask the question, what do I get from carrying this around? What's my secondary gain? David is good because he goes slow enough. Everybody should be at this pace at least. I don't think anyone else needs to go slower than this. So that's why I chose David to be the one, because he's perfect for what I'm trying to do. Okay, now you ask your social network, is there anyone who would choose to be upset if I let go of this thought form? Why is that important? Because sometimes we take thought forms on They service because, oh, well, my family will accept me, even if it's a thing like obesity or, something that really isn't good for me. It gets me to be a member of the family or the social group or my high school group or whatever. You get what I'm saying? So then you say, particularly if there's someone who will be upset with it, because they want you to be in a codependent relationship. What you say next, let's get really clear with it, is my psychosocial spiritual development or evolution, whatever word, is more important than any codependent needs. So we're breaking out of codependency here, which is extremely important.
Okay.
Good?
Yes.
Okay, so the final step is you have to be clear you're ready to let go of the total thought form. And here's what you say. And you copy these words pretty exactly. This is an illusory thought form reality which I created.
Okay.
Okay? It no longer serves me.
Okay.
Okay? And it isn't the truth of who I am. Okay, good. Therefore, I choose. Oh, I'm sorry. It isn't the truth of who I am. It harms me and is useless.
Okay.
Therefore, I choose to let it completely dissolve. And everybody has their ways of doing it. You can burn it in fire, you could dissolve an acid, you can blow it up, whatever. Okay. And then the final thing to get rid of all of it, totally, if there's anything left, is the pulse breath that disintegrates anything that's left. The one thing you don't want to do is to send it away because it can come back. You have to disintegrate it. So David, that's it. That's a technique. Writing it down personally means you begin to capture it and internalize it. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Remember, hopefully everybody copied this down. So that's good. You're much welcome. Alicia.
Oh dear. Do I have an echo? Hold on a minute. That's
You're
me.
echoing.
Okay,
Hello?
hang on. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
here.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
If Alicia's ready, she can go ahead. If not, someone else.
Yeah, I'm ready, but I'm just trying to figure out.
Well, you're not ready. So let me go to the next person. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, hi, how are you?
I'm fine, Andrea.
I'm glad. I'm glad. Getting ready to move. That's difficult. So thank you very much for being there for us. I was wondering if you try to send it to the sea.
No.
It comes back. It comes back, right? Someday.
Right, you have to dissolve it, disintegrate it, burn it. There has to be nothing left of the thought form.
Okay, very good. And I liked what you mentioned at the end. To how do you say you breathe it? No, you. In Spanish we say soplar. I don't know how you say it in English. I forgot.
You
You just
obliterate
mentioned
it. You obliterate it.
Yeah, you with your breath.
Yeah, you've the final disintegration of anything left is with your breath.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you. Blessings.
Okay, you're welcome, of course. Alicia, are you ready? Alicia, are you ready?
You know what? Okay, so to assert your power, you make 3 copies. And then what happens before you put it into 3 pictures?
You've stepped outside. When you name it, you become the witness. You're now outside of it, so you can act on it rather than think you're inside where it's in control of you. So there's a shift between it controlling you and you controlling it, which is where we have to go to get rid of it.
So you're outside of it, you're controlling it.
With the minute you name it, you're controlling it. You're now the witness outside the thought form. That's extremely important to get.
And then you put it, you make 3 copies of it, and you
Which asserts your power. It's just a subliminal self message. Okay, I'm in control, so I'll make 3 copies. I'll condense it to 1. I'll change it to an elephant. I'll change it to a eagle, whatever. You have power. That's what the step is about.
Okay, and then you condense it and to the original thought form. So we're still going back though to that original thought form.
The original thought form is where, because it can change. You're going back to the thought form that you named, which may have changed shape when you play out the pattern over past and present lifetimes. Remember I say, let it expand to include all the patterns, all the times you did it. It may actually change its shape. The shape that you end up with when you name it, that's the thought, the picture you're going to.
Okay, so that becomes like a morphed version of the thought form. So you're not going back to what you started with.
Correct.
And you're really recreating your thoughts. Yeah. Okay.
No, you're not recreating. You've stopped outside. The thought's already there. You're going to discreate it. You're not recreating. It's already there. All you're doing is experiencing it so you can deal with it.
You're confronting it, or you're
not confronting it.
Okay.
You're simply observing it as the witness.
So this process is about stepping out and looking at what it is from an objective viewpoint.
Correct. Then you have power over it. It's not power over you. You're
not inside it, outside. Yeah, I guess my question is, I am struggling, I guess, with this idea of power. Power, like power, that word has a lot of connotation to me. But I guess I just have to clear or do my resistance to that.
Yeah, you have to clear your issues with the word power. So maybe that's the next 0 point we'll do. Power or powerless, desire, resist. Because you now are in power. There's another word, another way of looking at it. Ego controls consciousness. The minute we go flip, it's consciousness controlling ego. That's what we've just done.
Consciousness controlling ego is kind of the outcome of this whole process.
Correct. And that's
controlling.
When you name it, you flip from ego controlling consciousness, the consciousness controlling ego. That's what you've done the minute you name it.
Okay, and so when you name it, so now, so really, walking around in life as a two-legged one with your consciousness controlling your ego as much as possible is desirable. I'm just making a
That's
statement.
yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And the
Thank you.
first
This
step
was,
of-
thank you, David. I appreciated this very much because I had it written about 6 different ways in 6 places, and I was trying to fill it in each time. So this was very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's the idea. So, and self-realization, not that that's exactly a concern right now, is when you're primarily more in that state of consciousness controlling the thought form rather than the other way around. Most people, 99.9999% of the population, are being controlled by their thought forms, are being controlled by the thought forms of the matrix, being controlled by the thought forms of your parents, being controlled by the thought forms of your racial history, being controlled by the thought forms of your gender history. Do you understand what I just said?
Yes, yes. And I have another question that goes from that. So the bottom line is that we can change ourselves, and it takes effort, because this is effort, and this is not what everybody or many people, but things are shifting now. I believe that more people are willing
Right.
and able to this. But
And
the
being a
bottom,
victim doesn't help you. Because victim means you're powerless.
and it's comfortable for people. It's comfortable.
Yes, I understand. That's
Habit pattern. So we're breaking habit patterns of ego to raise into our consciousness.
We're breaking the power of ego, so we're not ego ruling consciousness. Consciousness rules ego. We flipped it. That's what we're doing.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Excellent. So this is perfect timing, perfect questions. Anyone else about what I'm talking about here? Just getting the TD, thought dissolving process. That's all I want to talk about for the moment. You need to get it, and this is the time to get it. Bobby Joe.
Okay, just to clarify, this has all been a fantastic discussion. Thank you, thank you. When we name the thought form and pop out into the witness position and
Yes.
capture essence, and then we make the 3 copies in the animal imagery, are we using the new quick shorthand 1 or 2 word
Yes.
or the original, not the original thought form, but the
No,
new?
because it's morphed. So you've named it.
Okay.
It captures the essence. We're doing the essence, and then you're outside of it. Then you're in control, and then you can dissolve it, which is what the next
Okay.
step is.
Excellent. And then when we go back to the original thought form, it may have morphed, is what we were just talking about.
Well, that's
Slightly.
right. The minute you name it, that's what you're working with.
Oh,
Whatever
okay.
that image is, you've
Okay.
now, it's already morphed, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, beautiful. Okay.
Because of all the previous steps.
Yes. Yeah, that definitely does occur. Yes.
So when you are at sensory, size, shape, color, right? Sensory,
Right.
that's where you start with. By the time you've gotten to naming it, it may have changed its shape because you
Yeah.
cleared it up. That's the point I'm making.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect. Thank you.
Excellent, Bobby Joe. Anybody else have a question about the technique? Nothing else. Dodie.
Yes, okay, so on the part where we expand it out to the outer limits to include the conscious or the unconscious.
Yes.
Okay, so say that, for example, in my mind, I said, okay, my conscious tells me that this happened at 5 when, my dad said this. But then at this point, when I ask my unconscious, maybe something comes up that says, oh, well, wait, when you were 1, you were like watching some TV program. Is that what that, is that an
That's what that
example?
means, yes, because, yeah, you consciously took it on, but when we expand and include unconscious, we're doing unconscious, subconscious, and conscious, 3 elements of mind, right?
Uh-huh.
Our technique is designed to get include all the elements. So you may be unconscious of the thought form, so you took something in when you're 1 or you're 4, but it just may be activating something that happened 1,000 years ago.
Uh-huh. Okay.
You understand
Okay.
what I'm saying now?
Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions?
It looks like that's it, Ralph.
Okay, so this is really important. This is what our goal was this morning, is for you to have some level of mastery. You know, we'll get better, but it gives you some level of mastery, which is what we want. Now, we're going to go to the paired identity. We're using the same technique, but we're using it a little different because every identity has a goal. We're getting a little sophisticated. So as a stock one, unloved and self-esteem, they're paired. They're not the same. So we start with unloved, okay? And that, again, is just an example. And we have an identity and a goal. Okay, we identify that. Now what we're going to do is expand the identity and the goal. That's it. That's all we're doing, to include anything else, conscious or unconscious. Once we've expanded, we then go to the place where we took it on. Could be 1,000 years ago. I'm just making an example. But then we go prior to the place where we took it on to see that we didn't have it until we took it on. And once we've done that, then we slowly connect it. Let me see if I get this to work right, because I think we've got them okay. And we just hold there, you know, put it on your shoulder or top of your head, wherever you want to put it. And we do the other paired identity, identity 2, goal 2. And we experience it, we expand it, and then we go prior to when we took it on to know we didn't have it, just like we did before. It's okay. And then we take it out. Okay. And now we have these 2 sets, identity 1, goal 1, identity 2, goal 2. Now we're slowly bringing them together. Boom. Okay, we're bringing them together. You see, and they're touching now. They're merging. Boom. Suddenly, we don't have a dichotomy, but we understand that they're a pair. They are connected. That's the key concept. Okay, and there's really clusters, but when you do the pair, you're getting the whole cluster. But it's just too much to do every single part of the cluster. This handles it. Now, we take this one and we see where we're holding it in the body. And we're doing the exact technique. I'm going to run through it because everybody's written it down. So we do size, shape, color, smell, touch, taste. If you get even one of those, that's enough because the part is connected to the whole. Okay. Then we check emotions or effects, thoughts, and then we check root cause, where we took it on. It's the exact technique, right? Then we go back in time and space to when we took it on, and then we do prior to when we took it on, back and forth. It's the same technique. Then we take it on and let it expand. So we take the experience of taking on, then we let it expand to the outer limit, and then we give it a name that captures its essence. We assert our power or control over it and make 3 copies. Then we condense the one, then change it to an eagle or an ant or whatever. Again, asserting our control subliminally. Then we take it to the original form. Then we raise the question, what's my secondary gain? What do I get from carrying this around? Once we get clear of that and we're ready to let go of that secondary gain, we're not always willing to let go. That's the place like, oh, I'm not ready to let go. That's the place where you do the resistance to letting go of whatever that thought form is. Okay, and the resistance is the exact same technique. Then we check the social network and then making your clarity, and then we TD, thought dissolve it. That's it. So it's the exact same technique, but we've now include the paired identities, which is how most things occur as clusters. Any questions about that? Sujit.
Yeah, yes, Doc. I have a question about prior to merging, we have both the thought forms where we have identified where we took on and prior to when we took it on. So when we merge them, where the point prior to taking it on of both of them also gets merged.
Yeah, but remember, there's steps in here that, okay, so we go back in time to stage when we took it out. Now we're trying to remember the fact that this isn't us. That's why we go back prior to taking it on.
I see. And that remains the same even as the cluster merge.
Yeah, because that's just an awareness. It's a subliminal message that this isn't you. When it's prior, this isn't you. The thought form isn't there. It can't be essentially you. That's all we're doing.
Yes.
It's just a subliminal message.
Got it. Got it. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Because this is the day we really need to feel very confident that we understand it. First, you understand it's a little confusing. You have to play with it a little bit before you can even get close to understanding. Now we're ready. That's why we're doing it now. Any other questions about the original thought form dissolving and then the paired identity, which is kind of replication with a slight variation? Are there any questions?
Ralph, can I ask a question that may be helpful for the group?
Yes.
When would it occur to me to do a paired identity scenario? So I'm there, I find something, I want a 0 point, here there's this thing. At what point in my process do I say,
When
hey,
you intuitively feel that the simple thought dissolving process, there's other things connected.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay, you're welcome. Anybody else? Bobby.
Gabriel, can you just review the distinction between identity and goal? I'm kind of collapsing them and I'm not getting.
Okay, unloved is an identity.
Pardon?
Goal is what you get from carrying around unloved. What do you get from carrying around unloved? That's your goal. Your identity, I'm unloved. That's your identity. What's the result? Well, unloved brings me attention. Unloved keeps me separate. There's multiple goals that you can have. Everybody's different.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So they're quite distinct. One leads to the
We're
other.
very distinct, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Because we're going to run one right now before we take a break at 10:30. So does anyone else have a question? Dana?
Yeah, am I muted?
No, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just trying to get clarity. When we pick a thought form that we want to dissolve. How do we know whether we run it as the single thought form or as a paired identity?
Okay, so that's what Yehoshua answered. And so think about it. You may feel there's more involved. Okay. Oh, I'm unloved. You know what else? I also have low self-esteem. There's a connection here. So I'm going to do both at the same time because it's a cluster.
Okay.
Almost always there's a cluster, really, to be honest with you. But you have to get the basic thought form TD first. So you may say I'm in love, but oh, I also have low self-esteem. And gosh, isn't unlove connected to low self-esteem? Obviously it is. Do you see what I'm saying? That's what we're going to do with paired identity. They're
So when we get, let's say that occurs, and then we get the paired identity and we run these processes that are on the diagram, getting down to the original thought form. There's
two thought forms when you're doing paired identity.
Okay, so when we do we have the two thought forms and then we take it with this, I'm looking at the diagram, do these steps, these processes down to the original, the one where the paired identity kind of merges into one thing that we then.
Yeah, and that's where we do the whole TD process. The goal of paired identity is to get us to a place of a single thought form for which we have a technique for dissolving it.
Okay, and that which we have gotten from doing this process, the paired identity, that's going to be a thought form, a combination of this paired identity.
Yes, it's a.
Okay, which is different from the original thing that we got to run. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know what you're saying, but you have two different thought forms that are associated, unloved and low self-esteem.
Okay.
They're both unique thought forms, but they are associated. Therefore, we have to clear both to clear the whole thought form.
Okay. Okay. I'm almost positive I've got it.
I understand. That's why I'm being repetitive. It's okay to be repetitive in this course, okay? So I'm going to keep going over and over until you have the whole thing internalized. So fine. And that's why, honestly, people need to take the course at least 3 times before they really, really, really get it. It's deeper, okay? So I'm just telling you that. And each time we have to, you'll get a deeper understanding as it becomes internalized as a pathway. And that's how it becomes a path of liberation, because ultimate liberation is clearing, I'm going to say not all, because nothing's 100% here, but the majority of your thought forms, so you can be in the past, present, or future, or what I call the eternal presence, more than 50% of the time. What I mean by self-realization. A God merged being, remember we talked about that, moksha, God merged, they're pretty much 100% in that awareness. So when I was acknowledged by Prakashana Mukta and I was liberated, Prakashana talked about himself. So he's somewhere, here's how he identified it, somewhere between self-realized and God realized, or moksha. So I was at the beginning part, now more in the middle, but the point, you follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
So at self-realization, I'm more than 50% in this awareness with the thought forms being gone. They're not really affecting me very much. I'm affected a little bit. At God merging, you're not affected. You're pretty much 90.9999%. So, for example, at the time of Nityananda, Muktananda's guru, he's sitting there and he's totally gone. He's just lying there. He's not sitting there. And then he says, Sputnik, Sputnik. Nobody knows what he's talking about. Well, he's experiencing the whole world, okay? And it turns out that Sputnik from Russia had been just launched, the first Sputnik. So at that state of God merging, you're experiencing everything. There's no blockages. Is that making sense?
Yes.
So that's that at a God merge level, you're experiencing more and more things. Another example is Sai Baba of Shirdi, not the current Sai Baba. He's not the same thing at all. Sai Baba Shirdi is doing what he's doing. He was God merged. Muktananda said Sai and Nityananda were the same level of consciousness. And suddenly he puts his hand in the fire. There's this huge fire I used to meditate by. It's like 3 yards by 3 yards. It's huge. And I'm meditating 2 feet away, okay, for hours a day. Okay, Sai, when he was alive, puts his hand in this fire. So what's he doing? Okay, 2 days later, a lady comes and she says, Sai, thank you. My baby had fallen into a fire and somehow the baby was drawn out. And then I got that it was you. Do you follow what I just said?
Yes.
So you're open to you're experiencing everything, okay? And he did what he had to do, which saved her baby, and she figured it out. Okay?
Yes, thank you. Beautiful.
Yeah, now one more point. This is a spiritual teaching here. A lot of people, particularly yogis, want to think about themselves as not attached, as if you're separate.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the opposite. Okay? You're connected, but you're not affected.
Yes.
So I'm going to use the word 2 words. Detached is you're separate. People talk, oh, I'm detached. Well, then something's wrong. You don't even know what liberation is. You're not detached. You're not attached means you're experiencing it all, but you're not being so affected by it, but you're experiencing it all. So at higher levels, at self-realization to God merging, you are non-attached. You're Nityananda saying Sputnik, like nobody knows what's going on. It hasn't hit the news.
Mm-hmm.
Or your Sai Baba putting his arm in the fire to pull the baby out symbolically. Is that making sense?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. How beautiful.
Yeah. So we don't want to think ourselves as detached. No, we're one with the world. We're non-attached. Okay. Now it's a little, because really the way I'm teaching 0 point, it's not a technique. It's, again, Advaita Vedanta. It's a way of, it's a path of liberation in that way, through the mind. Okay. Any other questions before we do a paired identity?
Yes.
Go ahead, Woody.
You said that 2 things. One, that actually most things are clusters. So
Yes.
So this is like having a paired identity is much more. It's like baby steps. That's step 1 we did, and then step 2 is that be aware that there are multiple things going on.
There may be. Sometimes it's just a paired identity. It's just a single. And the way you distinguish it is where you feel, oh, there's some kind of cluster here. Let me get at least 2 so that I'm dissolving the whole cluster.
Okay.
It's not always that way, is what I'm trying to say. That's why we do both. But you have to do the one before you can even do paired identity.
Understand. And in this case, with the unloved and low self-esteem, I'm not clear. Is the process is to 0 point each one of them separately? And
No.
No.
Stop. So we have unloved, low self-esteem are part of the thought form cluster. We do exactly what I did, which is not 0 pointing each one. You have to bring them together as one thought form, then you do the full 0 point.
Oh, Okay, so in these circles here, what is the process of transitioning them into the one point that you
You
then
mentally bring them together.
mentally? Okay, mentally.
Yeah.
Think it's through. Perfect. Thanks.
Excellent question. Anyone else? Alicia?
I think I answered my own question because when you said the whole thing is a mental thing, but it's not all mental. This is, even though you're talking about the different layers of consciousness, it's, do you consider kinesthesia sensory, that, do you consider sensory motor, the sensory motor system mental?
No, but what I'm saying is that's part of the process. What do we do first? Sensory.
Right.
Okay. That's where it fits in.
That's where, say it again.
We include the sensory in the
Yeah.
very first step. What are
Yeah.
you holding in the body?
That's
Size, shape,
fundamental.
color, smell, touch, taste. Does that sound like sensory to you?
Yeah.
So it's included it's included in the stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Sujit, last question so we can try to do one more period identity.
Yes, Rav, I wanted to, when you were clarifying to Woody, I guess, where those two thought forms, when I realized that there are two thought forms that I need to pair it, do a pair identity work. When is it necessary for me to figure out what was the goal related to it?
Yes.
And so that I would realize the goal component part as I root cause the thought form.
Okay. You're going to stick with the technique. So let's not get the words confused.
Okay.
Goal is the same as secondary gain. Do you remember that's part of the technique? Yes?
Yes. Yes.
All I'm doing here at period identity is being a little clear that you have a thought form and that has a goal. Right? And when you combine them energetically, then it's much easier to let them go.
That was a key clarifying thing for me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so pick identity 1, goal 1, identity 2, goal 2. And you're from your life. 2 thought forms that are associated. I'm going to give you 2 minutes.
To the group, please raise your hands when you've chosen. Okay, I think we're there.
Okay, excellent. So here we go. Take identity 1 and goal 1. Expand it to the outer limit, including automatically all sensory, emotional, thought, or root cause levels. And again, raise your hand when you've done that.
Dr. Cousins, some divine intervention is happening here with me, so I apologize, but I just now, this weird thing happened where we were just finishing and you were just giving that prompt, and my email like came across my screen, which it like never does. And an email appeared that is asking me a question that has been a prime issue with me. And I haven't been answering it. And I felt compelled to just write a 1-sentence email. And at that point, you gave the prompt and you said, and I missed it, you said identify 2 goals and 2 identities. But I had written down impatience about this particular thing I had written before as it was appearing, impatience and smart, and then anxiety and attention. And now I'm all confused. Like, is that a goal and an identity? Or is that, are those, I'm all confused right now.
Okay. I'm trying to think what to do because we're right in the middle of a process. So the answer is impatience is an identity, and goal of the identity, goal of impatience. Whatever you get from impatience is the goal. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So let me know when we've reached the outer limit here.
We're at about 70%, Rev.
Okay, so we'll wait a little bit more. But please, everybody, get on it. Because I want you to you can go really fast. Literally, you can do this while waiting in line somewhere. That's how fast you can get it, like the post office line or something.
So we're doing one at a time right now. Is that
That
correct?
is correct. We're still on number 1.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, I think we're there, Ralph.
Okay, good. Now what you're going to do is go prior to taking it on and move into taking it on. That's it. You're just going to include that one piece wherever you took it on. That's it. And then you're going to hold wherever you want to put it, symbolically. You're holding it, and now we're going to low self-esteem, or we're going to identity 2, goal 2. And we're going to expand that to the outer limit, and then go prior to taking it on and have the experience of taking it on and stop there. That's our next step. And don't forget to raise your hand to show you've done it. Okay, get ready now. We're going to move a little faster here. You have identity 2, goal 2, you've gone to prior, and now back to the deep experience, the initial experience of taking it on. This is for identity 2, goal 2. I'm going to move on in just a moment.
We're at about 75% here, Ruff.
Okay, so help everybody try to finish it up.
Okay, we're there.
Excellent. Now, mentally, you're going to take identity 1, goal 1, identity 2, goal 2, and slowly bring them together, and just like the diagram, and then they merge and become one. Okay? Perfect. Now, you're going to feel where you're holding it in the body, size, shape, color, smell, touch, taste. This is, again, the merging of identity 1, goal 1, identity 2, goal 2. And now we're going to do the complete 0 point. So sensory, emotional, thought, and ultimately root cause. And root cause is just right now, you've just merged them, but really these thought forms have been together before. So see what you can do with that. Where you're holding it in your body, size, shape, color, smell, touch, taste, emotions and thoughts, and root cause. Because you're already programmed to do this. So just go ahead and do it. Raise your hand because we're speeding up the pace. Everybody needs to understand I'm doing it deliberately, not because I'm impatient, because I know this is what you have to do to make this practically work. Okay, now once you've done what I asked, which is, activate the thought form, sensory, emotional, thought, root cause. Now what you're going to do is expand it to the outer limit to include anything additional, conscious or unconscious. And again, put your hand up to show that you have done that so we can proceed.
Okay, 100%.
Perfect. Okay. Now we go back in time and space when we first took it on. And when you find that place, you go prior to when you first took it on. So obviously we just took it on today, but actually it's been there for a long time, this cluster. So when did we first take the cluster on, you'll have to see, that's the exploration. Then you go prior to taking it on and move forward to taking it on. Prior, move forward, prior, move forward, and take it on. That's where we're going to stop, and next step will be after that. Put your hands up when you're done. We're gonna, again, make you go a little faster, and you can do it. You can go faster because you have the program now.
We're at about 85%.
Okay, so everybody get ready for the next step. So speed it up a little bit. And remember, that's part of the process to get faster and faster.
Okay, I think we're there.
Okay, great. Now we have reached, we did the point where we take it on, we're expanding it to look at all the times we've carried out this pattern of paired identity. So keep expanding now for all the times, past life and present. And then hold when you get to the end of that.
Okay, we're there.
Okay, great. Now, name it and pop outside, make 3 copies, condense it to 1, change it 3 times. This is subliminal approach to help you empower you. So we really name it, pop outside, make 3 copies of the thought form, condense to 1, then change it to different animal shapes, horses, cows, yellow roses, and then condense it to 1 again. That's your next step. Raise your hands again when you're done with this stuff.
We're at 95%.
Okay.
There's 100.
So next step is, what is your secondary gain for carrying around this paired identity? That's the next step. Just get and be ready to let go. So that should take you not more than a minute to get. And again, put your hand up when you're done.
Okay, we're at 95%.
Okay, get ready to end it. Be clear that you're ready to let go of the secondary gain. Next step, we're gonna complete the whole process.
Okay, I think we're there.
Okay, great. So now you're clear, you're ready to let go of your secondary gain. You check your social network to see if there anybody would be upset about letting go of this paired identity, and say to yourself, which hopefully you've all written down so you can check it, my psychosocial spiritual development or evolution is more important than any codependent needs. And now I'm ready to 0 point, to totally disintegrate this thought form. Okay, get up to there, raise your hands. Then we do the final step. Okay, the final step. See the thought form. Be clear you're ready to let go of it, dissolve it, disintegrate it. Say to yourself, this is an illusory thought form reality, which I created. It no longer serves me. is not the truth of who I am. It is harmful and useless. Therefore, I choose to let it dissolve. And now, dissolve it. Okay, let's have a release it with the pulse breath, and let's have a little sharing, okay?
I just wanted to say thank you. I was able to go through that very clearly, except at the very end, when it was time to completely dissolve it, I just kind of had this awareness come in that there is more work to be done, but during it, I had a great sense of relief and lots of understandings came through. So it became clear to me that it's not this particular issue, but it is something that I have repeated, that has repeated and in my life over and over and over again, where I mean, if I'm going to get specific, it's where I get in over my head and I don't know how to appropriately ask for help to complete a process or a project or kind of get out of the way so that others can step forward in their power and
Okay, so my question is, you were not able to dissolve it at the end. Is that what you said?
Well, I was doing this process in a way where, okay, so every time I open my eyes, I to raise my hand, I kind of lose a little bit of where I was in terms of the process. So then I went back to my notes just to double check and make some more notes about when you're pausing. And so that very last time when I went back, I didn't have, it's just like whatever it was already, I had already gotten so much from the process that, and I knew I needed to do more. And something like an image just, I thought I'll be sitting here all day if I mean, I'm not going to hold people up around this.
Okay, so my answer is you didn't totally dissolve it. So
Correct.
do in our break your resistance to dissolving it, because that's the obvious next step. Okay, just
Okay.
do it. You got the notes, you know how to do it.
Right.
Next person.
I just take that unit and I will do resistance for the unit.
Whatever the vision is of the final thought form, you're going to do your resistance to dissolving the final thought form.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else want to share? Elizabeth.
This is Betsy.
I'm sorry, Betsy. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I usually change my name, but I didn't today. I have, well, the first thing I want to share is I have a question. I have some general comments
All right, gotta go one step at a time. You have a
Right.
question, ask your question.
Right. The question I have is this about burning karma? Can this be about burning
Yes.
karma?
Yes.
That was the big insight I had doing this exercise. I found that when I did my paired identity and I came to my goals and I was expanding this out, um, the identities that and issues that I had yesterday, it's like there's a lot of similarity in the same types of patterns that I'm seeing. And
Yes.
then I went back and I thought, well, this has got to be patterns from past lives too.
Yeah.
Might be kind of a whole plan of some sort. I don't know enough about the past life issue to say exactly, but anyway,
You
so
don't have to do much. Yeah, all you need to know is how to resolve it, which is what the technique does.
yeah, I mean, this is fabulous.
Okay, good.
I have some general comments, but I can save them till another time.
Well, make your comments now so it's completed.
Well, the imagery, well, one of the things I came to the conclusion last night after this ended was, there used to be something that I used to use with my clients in therapy, which was called a bitter root judgment. And so I looked it up because I didn't remember. It's been a long time. And it came from Deuteronomy chapter 29. And it's just called the bitter root judgment, where things are embedded in us. We don't always know they're there because sometimes they're pre-verbal from childhood.
Right.
And so I don't know that this is, and then the imagery
So
went,
the 0 point is clearing now.
yes, and then the imagery went into a tree and its roots, and when you do the paired identity, I was picturing these roots. I have a big problem with roots in my front lawn right now, and it's not resolved. And as we were digging up roots, digging the dirt up this summer, we just came upon roots. And they kind of, when you say expanded out, these roots get expanded out to the point where they're really small and little, but they're so thick and they're intertwined and they're hard to get out. And
That's why we do go to the root like 3 times. We expand it 3 times to the place where you don't have it because it takes a while to get it out.
And then the other insight I have, because sometimes I just get amused about and take things. I've learned to take things kind of lightly, as to not get upset or whatever. And one of the other insights I had today was I think this would make a fabulous TV game show, because some of the stuff most of the stuff they're doing on TV right now is just nonsense. This would actually be worthwhile, and it'd be a heck of a lot of fun, and people would learn from it. And I pictured this whole TV show going on with people doing this process and
So
sharing.
here's the point. This is a more sophisticated process. It's not for the general public. It's for people who have some spiritual awareness. So actually, even though it may be entertaining, you have to have a certain awareness to be ready to take 0 point. Doesn't make it as a TV show. End of discussion. It's not even close. It's not even close.
Anyway,
I'm motivating everybody in the group because you have to have a certain spiritual background.
Yes. Yes, I understand that, but it was a wonderful image, and I had a good time with it for a while.
Okay, good. Anything else?
No, that's good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Betsy. Okay, anyone else before we take a break? Bobby.
Hi there. I recently became aware through the sharing of a friend of something called the sensitive person. And it was like, oh my gosh, I checked all the boxes. I'm a sensitive person. So I took this on in this paired identity, along with unloved is my twin identity, which gave permission to withdraw from the world, on and on and on and on and on, very deep.
Perfect.
And this is the first time I've had a friend or colleague possibly object to my transformation in 0 point, because my friend's the one who told me about this sensitive person syndrome and all that goes with it. And there's a lot of identity tied up in that now
Absolutely.
with myself. And so, and I also found that my usual method of dissolving wasn't getting anywhere. So I had to pull out some dynamite to work on it.
Okay.
So I
You
think
wanna
I
go
will.
to resistance to letting
Yep.
go of I'm a sensitive person.
Yeah. Yeah,
Very-
that's what I wrote down. I'm gonna be doing that. Yeah.
Okay,
So this was a really, really good one. Really good.
excellent.
Thanks so much.
Okay, anyone else? So we're going to take a 15-minute break and we're going to come back. I'm going to introduce you to desire and resist, which we'll do more this afternoon. Okay, very good. And you can leave it on. Yoshua, you can mute me.
Sometimes the parents seem to be the ones who oppose the most to your changing and
Yes.
healing.
The
Yes.
answer is yes, because they're part
Yes.
of a family complex. They need you to be a certain way for them to feel comfortable. That's correct.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you very, very much. This is really deep. Thank you.
You're 115. So contrary to paired identities, we also have opposites. The key with opposites is you have to dissolve both at the same time. Whereas paired identities, you can do one at a time. It's just the way it's worked out because the opposites keep recreating each other. So if you dissolve desire, that's fine. But the resistance, if it's still left, will recreate desire. So it's a subtle, different approach. So we have to at the same time. Okay, that's the key concept. Basically, you take the desire and expand it to the outer limit. Hold, take the resistance, expand to the outer limit. Bring them both together, and you can see at the bottom, they become one again, just like you did it with the paired identity. But you then do the full dissolving technique. That's it. Are there any questions about that? And when we come back, Dana, go ahead.
Yes, Gabriel, I have a question. I want to just check with the last process.
What happened? Are you there?
Okay.
Go ahead, Dana.
Yes, the last.
It cut out process, yes. You have a question about the last process. Please
Yes,
ask it.
Yeah, okay. It became, when I got the paired identities as to one and I went back, it became so huge. And then all of a sudden I went back to the original and dissolved the thought form, which was huge, before I could do the exact specific steps. So I think
That's okay. When you say the exact thought form, you're saying that thought form and reality are merged, right?
yes.
Yeah, that's fine. That's part of what we're going to get to tomorrow of how we do this in 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, does anybody have any questions about desire and resist?
I'm sorry,
Go
I just wanted to say that I came actually to the desire and resist thing when I did my assignment over the break, and I came to this stubborn resistance.
Yes.
And from that, what I got from it, I realized is energy. And then when I came to, am I willing to let go of this? It was like, no, I have 5 more minutes of my break and I'm not letting go of that. And so then I was like, okay, goodbye. I'll come back to this because I have to keep going. So then now I have this next thing, like energy. I'm not letting go of energy. Like that's one of so I'm like at the root of one of my ways that I function. Yeah. So I just want
my answer to you is you have the resistance, but you have a desire for the evolution of consciousness too. And so what happens is when we dissolve this limited energy concept, more opens up and you get more energy. That's the key concept. So you're going to dissolve your resistance, but the desire is for spiritual evolution, which your resistance, energy, I may lose it. It blocks you from getting to the higher place.
Well, so do I do 0 point using just the energy related to this specific situation that I was taught? I mean, no, so say, can you say that in another way? Okay.
Yeah. We have a desire and resist. We have polarities. You have a resistance to letting go of it because you have a microscopic, limited view of what the energy means versus the energy of liberation, the energy of enhanced evolution. Okay, so that's your resistance, but your desire, because that's why you're taking this course and why you've been working with me, is to know God, is to increase your understanding. And incidentally, it increases your overall spiritual energy. So you have the limited you saying, I just want to hold it as it is. I don't want to take any risks. Maybe I'll lose it. And then you have the desire, which is the expanded you, which will give you more energy. Could that be any clearer for you?
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Okay, so I'm doing the 0 point on the limited energy and I'm ready to let that go. So I'll go back in once, then I'll be ready to conquer the world.
Exactly. But actually, if you don't mind, do a desire and resist on it. Stay with the program. We're now at desire and resist. Stay with where we are. Don't confuse yourself. You have a desire and resist to let go of this energy because you get something from it. That's your resistance. Your desire is to evolve spiritually and in fact bring in more energy. Correct? That's your desire and resist. Now we're going to do it.
Thank you.
So life just got easier. Perfect timing. Now, and don't think about it because you get into the left brain and you get confused. Just stay in the right brain. Okay, anybody else?
Thank you.
Gabriel,
Yes.
is desire resist one example of opposites, or do you want us to work on someplace in our life where we desire and resist? If this is
the answer is yes and yes. Watch this, because that's what I want you to do. Look what I did. We have desire and resist, a whole list. And that's a starting point. So what I want everybody to do now is go down the list and see if you have a desire and resist. Do I have a desire and resist to love? Do I have a desire and resist to orgasm? Do I have a desire and resist to fear? Do I have a desire and resist to sex? Do I have a desire and resist to eating? Do I have a desire and resist to intimacy? Do I have a desire and resist to patience? Is that clear?
This is very helpful.
List. And that's what you're going to get to look at right now before we do a desire and resist. And there's more on the list. Desire and resist to be a victim. Okay. Now, these two columns are separate. They're not desire and resist to be abused, possessing others. They're separate. So column 1 is its own set. Column 2, okay, desire and resist to feel guilty, or desire and resist making others an object, desire and resist to judge others. And then the other column, whatever that is. So we have 2 columns for you to choose from. Now, I'm going to help you through that. So we're going back, if this will go back. And so now, if people don't have a question about the technique, we'll now give you some options and you can choose your own. on top of it. It's a win-win. Everybody wins here. So does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good. Does anyone else have a question about the technique?
Hello. Even though you're explaining the technique very clear, and even though this is the first time you do it online, you're doing it marvelously. I hope you do it again. And in the meanwhile, I hope that it's going to be taped because I'd like to review all this. And I can imagine
is
myself
taped.
walking.
It is
Wonderful,
taped.
wonderful. Thank you. I can imagine myself walking or being somewhere doing 0 point in between, you know,
Absolutely.
in the street or in the car. Maybe
That's
not in
the
the
idea.
car. Maybe not in the car. But
No,
yeah.
not in the car. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm glad you brought that up. Do not do 0 points when you're doing anything else like driving a car. That's a dangerous thing to do. Do it when you're walking. That's fine. Don't do it while you're riding a bicycle because you have to keep a certain amount of focus on riding a bicycle. Don't do it while you're doing anything that if your focus is disrupted. Don't do it then. Only do it like you're waiting in line somewhere, or you're walking, or you're sitting, or you're meditating. That's when you do it. That's
Right.
safe.
Right. That's wonderful.
Okay, thank you for
very
bringing
much.
that
Thank
up.
you.
Okay, good. Any other questions about the technique before I let you go through a list of desire and resist for you to pick out the ones that work for you, the ones you have to work on. And Alicia, you're already set. You know which ones the one you're going to do first. Okay, anyone else? Okay, so now we're going to go through this and you're just going to look at it and pick 10 of them. We're not going to do 10 today. We're going to do a bunch. We're not going to do 10. If you have any questions, I'm sitting here ready to answer your question. So go ahead, take 5 minutes to absorb. When you feel you've gone through the list, raise your hand so we know where we are. Very good. And I'm sitting here, it's like, okay, you have a question, ask me. But in the meantime, go through the list to make sure you understand each desire and resist. Alicia.
Oh, I just raised my hand because I assumed you wanted us to raise our hand when we were done, and I already know, but I'm going to go through the list. Okay.
Perfect. You know which one you're going to do, but these are a list for when we break after yoga, these are things you're going to do this afternoon. So pick ones that work for you, that you know you need to work on. That's the concept.
Okay,
Yeah.
Dr. Cousins, it's Betsy.
Yes.
I still have a question. You were cutting out. I don't know if it's my internet or yours, but the columns, is each column a separate entity?
Yes.
And can you just explain again? So is that like this page that you're showing, is that desires or resistance, or what
No.
are these words?
Listen. I have a desire and resist for love. Next in the column, I have a desire and risk for being poor. Oh, I have a desire and risk for relationship. Oh, I have a desire and risk for gossip. That's a whole column of desire and resist. Next column, same thing. I have a desire and risk to be patient. I have a desire and risk for food. It just, if you think about this second column is just an extension of the first column. So if you could put them as a long list, but then we can't get them all on the same page that way.
So it's a desire and a resist for love.
Or what? Yes.
Yes, I mean, that's
Each one is a possible desire and resist. That's the key concept. Each one of these is a possible desire and resist. If it resonates from you, write it down, then you'll have that list. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Yeah, just take me a minute or so here.
Well, yeah, I'm waiting. We're not hurrying and we're not rushing. You just have to understand it. That's the most important thing. So we'll take 5 minutes, or, you raise your hand when you finish this list. You've gone through, oh yeah, I have a desired list about this issue or that issue. Perfect. Then we go to the next page. Excellent.
I have another question.
Yes.
So how can a person have a desire for anger? I mean, this doesn't, am I,
A lot of people love anger. They live off the energy of anger. Real simple.
or a desire for being poor? So these,
Some people like being poor. I guess if you look at it in the Christian world, what is idealized?
okay,
Does
yes,
that answer your question?
yeah, it does. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you. Hello.
Yes.
I have a question, please. Well, I don't want to be specific, but this may be something that happens often to people. Being afraid of becoming poor again, like my grandparents were, like my father was, like I was when I was young as a student.
Okay, so the answer is you have a resistance to being poor, but there's another side, the desire. So when you clear both, it makes it easier.
I don't think I have the desire, but you think this sounds like I would have it, right? I don't have it. I don't.
Well, you have, okay, if you don't, then
I don't want to.
Wait a second, listen. Don't
Yes.
choose it. What I would do is another time do your fear of being poor, because that's the thought
Right.
form you're talking about. Is that correct?
Right. Yes, it's
So
correct.
that's a single 0 point. It's a single 0 point. Use the very first technique for that. Done.
Okay. Actually, yeah, it's my fear and my ancestors' fear. It's the whole
That's
family's
fine.
fear
Doesn't
from the
matter.
beginning.
That's the
Okay,
individual
very
0
good.
point that it would apply, not as
Very-
desire and resist. Okay?
Thank you. Sure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And usually let me know when we've reached 100% that people have all gone through the list so we can move to the next list.
Okay, we're heading to about 75% right now.
Dr. Cousins, are you asking us to do 0 point on the ones we've picked or just pick some of them?
Pick some and I'll lead you through the 0 point.
So why, I don't understand why it takes any time to do that, but
Because
maybe-
everybody's different. So
Okay.
some people have to think about it differently. That's why.
Okay, thanks.
But when we get to this list, we have one more list to look at. You're writing down and you're making a list. And these are things we'll do this afternoon. Again, when you're done with this list, raise your hand so we can decide to move on to the next one.
Okay, we're there, Ralph.
Okay, we're going to the next list. We'll do the same thing. You're going to pick out which ones you want to work on, where you have ambivalence about. Ambivalence is another word for desire and resist. Again, raise your hand when you've completed your list from this list of desire and resist that you want to do. How are we doing, Yoshua?
I think we're about 50%.
Okay.
We're at about 75%.
Okay, good.
While we are waiting, can I ask a question, please, about
Sure.
design?
Go ahead.
From what I'm understanding is that to look at this list and to see what is resonating or triggering in me as I look at each of this point and note that down, rather than trying to overthink about, do I have a desire for it or do I have a resistance for it? Am I approaching it right?
No. You're just simply looking to see, I have a desire to resist to judge others. Is that true? And is it, so it makes you ambivalent to judge or not to judge. That's what. That's as simple as that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So, okay. And that's why you use the term ambivalence. Do I have an ambivalence to each item in the list? If I don't, then that means I pick that up.
Correct. Exactly.
I've got about 3 people who haven't raised their hands.
Okay.
Just waiting on one person.
Okay, just so you know, I have the address to Dr. Cousins Global is in your thing now.
On WhatsApp, Ralph?
Yes.
I have a link to a website, but not the.
I have the address. You're going to get it in 30 and 1
Got
second.
it. Okay, got it.
Okay, everybody about done here?
Yeah, I think it's done.
Okay, so now I'm not going to do a whole thing because it's going to make us late for the rest of the day. So I want to know if there are any more questions about this list or about the idea of desire and resist.
Okay, I have a question. When by workshop identity, what does that mean? Is that having a fake identity?
No, it means you're involved in the workshop and you're kind of aligned with it and you kind of take on the energy of the workshop. But then when you get out of the workshop, you say, well, that was just a workshop and this is my real identity. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And okay, yes.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Is this desire and resist run like the paired identities?
No, it's like it, but not. You have to dissolve up everything at the same time.
Uh-huh, okay.
Any other questions?
Doc, so by desire resist, one way to look at it is also anything that I have either a desire or resistance for.
Yes. Well, not exactly. They have to be the ambivalent. You have both happening. That's the concept. Both are happening. If both aren't happening, then you can do the other 0 points. The key is learning which ones to apply. This is when you're ambivalent. You're 40-60, you're 50-50, you're ambivalent. Does that make sense?
Kind of, but I want to keep, once I do it, it'll help because I'm really grateful for you just telling to just go along with it, because every time doing it gives a better direct experience.
Absolutely. But you need to understand these are things you have ambivalence about. Now, earlier, Andrea talked about being poor. She has no ambivalence. She's clear. She doesn't want to be poor. Okay? There's no ambivalence there. So these are for ambivalence.
Where sometimes there's a desire, and sometimes there's a resistance for it.
No, right. So they compete with each other.
Compete with each other. I see. Got it. Thank you.
That's the key concept. Okay, any other, it's important you get your questions answered with this. So any other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Dana.
Is this where addictions would run in or would be run with this desire and resist?
Well, yes and no. It's a good start. You may have your desire and resist to take marijuana or alcohol. You could start there. That just clears the field for you to do the addiction work, which we will be doing.
Okay, that's a different step.
It's a different process, yes.
Okay, thank you again.
You're welcome. Any other questions before we take a very short break and we do the yoga?
Gabriel, I have a question. There's two things on the list. One would be under desire and one would be under resist. So being vulnerable would be a desire. And the other thing on the list says to control, and that would be my resistance to the desire. Is that the way this
No.
works? No.
Being vulnerable, you have a desire and resist to be vulnerable. Don't get it all mixed up. Being vulnerable. I have a desire to be vulnerable, but I have a desire also not to be vulnerable.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the ambivalence. Do you see the difference?
Yes.
Okay, good. Any other questions? This is really about clarifying. So we have to, asking these questions now is important because this is what we're going to do when we come back. We will, each of you has your list now, and we'll go through them. I mean, you'll go through your own list as I guide you through desire and resist. Yes, Suji.
Doc, there was two things there about sex and sex is good and sex is bad. What is the distinction between sex and specific else in the context of desire resist?
Well, sex is good. Puts you, again, it's actually both sides of it. Sex is good. You have a desire and resist for sexual activity. Sex is bad. That's your predominant opinion, but you're still ambivalent about it. So you're ambivalent. Sex is good. Well, I'm not totally sure, but sex is good. And the other one, sex is bad, and your predominant energy with that is sex is bad, but sex may also be good.
Okay.
So there's a nuance there. You're pretty good at picking up nuances. Did you follow that?
I guess, yes, I followed that. Thank you for validating that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very good at picking these subtle things up. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to stop and we'll gather in 15 minutes to do the yoga, which will go from 12:15 to 1:15.